We are still in Goa. We are here with Satyarthi, who is the founder of the Osho rebalancing. There he is. And one of the interesting people we have been meeting through the years, I've been meeting through the years. I was fortunate enough to do the rebalancing training in Pune. And you were fortunate enough to train a lot of people and also to work on Osho. So that's one of my first questions for you. How was it to work on Osho?
I worked on Osho for about 4 months, every day. And at first it's in a context. You have to get the context, because I was living there in his community and living there for at that point for about 14 years or something. And so he was really an inspiration for me. And so being called to work on him was just like an honor, more than an honor. It really changed my life in many ways, and also changed my body work, because he taught me a lot. You know, the person who was learning the most, it was clear, it was not him. He wasn't getting the most from the sessions. Obviously, I was getting the most, just being with him in that way. Yeah. Sometimes I would work on him, and during the session I would be in an altered state of consciousness. I would get what's called a contact high, really. I would just be kind of transported into a very silent place inside myself, kind of a very silent heart, really. And he himself, you know, would come in because he had some shoulder problem, because in the discourses at the end at night he would do this, dance with everybody with his arms, and it started to get into one of his shoulders and he had a problem. So that's why I was called. And I would work very deep on his body, and he would always tell me, there's a pain point. And he said, you want me to tell you where the pain points are? And I would say, yeah, I'd love that, you know. And he'd say, okay, pain point. Does everybody have a pain point there? And I would say, no, not exactly. And then he would say, is it because of the right side of my brain I have a pain point, on the left side of my body? He was very inquisitive, and I think he was also testing me a little bit to see how I would respond. And he would keep doing that. I mean, it went on for days. He would always ask me questions. And at the same time, when I was working on him, on his body, I would go very deep into painful areas, and there would be no change of breath, ever. This is 4 months of sessions, so it's like a lot of sessions. And there would be no change of breath, ever. His breathing was very shallow because he was so relaxed. So he would say pain point, but he would never have to breathe differently to deal with the pain. Because, as he said, a man who is living his truth, like he was, doesn't identify with the body. Of course, they feel it. They're very sensitive to it, but they don't identify with it. So I would be able to work as deep as I want, and he would stay very, very, very calm. It was more proof for me of his space of fearlessness. And then personally, a lot happened to me, man. It was like at a time, it was one of the best times of my life. It was definitely the most intense time of my life, you know. My whole life was consumed with it. And I was living in a community probably with 2,000 people. And there was so much attention on me also at the time because of what I was doing with Osho. And when I'd work on Osho, he was very interesting how he'd respond. You know, sometimes he'd play tricks on me. I'd be working and he'd suddenly go, oh, that's really painful, but he never does that, you know. And then and then his team would run up, you know, worried. And then I realized he's just playing with me, man. But I didn't know at first. It took a while, and then I realized I wasn't even going that deep. And he was just seeing, he would check me how I'd respond to things or how I'd react to things. Because I was very attached to that job. Because I fell in love on a deeper level with Osho when I worked with him. I just loved him more and more, you know, because he had the innocence of a child and the wisdom of the ages, you know. He was a very powerful, wise man. But his presence on this level, working with him, he was like an innocent child, you know. He was very wide-eyed and open. And it was such a sweet feeling. You wanted to care for him. I wanted to care for him, just take care of him. As it went on, you know, because it went on and on, you know, I'd wake up every morning hoping he'd want another session that day. You know, that was my, like, obsession, you know. And as it went on, I got more and more relaxed in it, more and more myself with him, you know. I felt more easy, I felt more my humor, I felt more my, just that I could be myself. And yet he was the emperor in the room, you know, and it was very clear in a very beautiful way, you know. He was giving me feedback also about my touch and how I should teach. He would tell me how I should teach, you know, different things. He would just say, when you touch, when it's teach the people to hold the pain points, those are the points where all the holding is. And it's not just physical holding, it's emotional holding, psychological holding. And so those are the points that you want to get people to be aware of and what's inside them. So I was learning a lot, man, and he was asking me question after question, so I'd go home and study and study. So it was beautiful. It was an amazing time, and finally it did end. One morning I woke up kind of expecting to go in, and then Amrita said no, he doesn't want any more sessions. And this is 120 sessions into it. I was like, I was kind of like in shock, you know, and then I let it go. Then he starts working with the guy I originated rebalancing with, Anu Buddha, who is my best friend and I work with every day. And he started having sessions with Anu Buddha. And that was like also an incredibly interesting experience. Because I was jealous. It was like my lover just left me for my best friend, only I couldn't bitch on my lover, you know, because it was Osho. So it was just a reflection of me, you know, and the whole commune was watching. I felt like I was under a microscope. I mean, that's what it felt like to me. And I went through a lot with that. A lot of stuff, a lot of questions to Osho and lecture about it. Personal question where I'd write. And it was also a learning experience, not to compare, man. That was the whole thing, this whole thing of comparison, you know. And which is part of my structure, you know, is that I live with, is that. But I learned a lot in that. And that was the beauty of Osho, is that he was such a good teacher, you just had to take the opportunity. I was high in a way that I don't think I've ever been high. And I mean like calm, peaceful, silent. I'm not a real silent person. But then I was living in a lot of silence. I'd want to be away from people more than I'd want to be with people. And those days especially, that was really something because I was very social. And he gave me a lot through that experience. I was lucky. I feel very lucky for it. I think about it a lot, and when I teach and when I work with people, it gives me a lot to fall back on what I got from Osho in that way. I got many things from him, but that particular time of working with him, you know, It was really a journey of the heart for me. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sats.
Oh, he's crying. He is such a beauty, man. Oh, he started crying. Oh, that's sweet. Oh. Okay, I think that's it. Huh?
That's it.